Stream is live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talking About Survivor. I am Christiana Ellis,
I am Mike McTeen.
and tonight we are talking about Survivor Winners at War, Episode 5. Still, even though lots is going on, we were just talking about how it felt like last Wednesday was approximately 3 months ago, or at least that was my version of it. Do you have a different subjective time assessment?
No, I mean, I think I read a tweet somewhere that said last week was a hell of a year.
Yeah.
um,
Indeed.
yes.
But nonetheless, we're not going to let coronavirus stop us, especially since
No.
we do this remotely already anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say this podcast has prepared me for now how I conduct work meetings.
There you go. I was
Not
just
that we
thinking
talk about
about.
Survivor at work, but we do it
Yeah.
virtually. Yeah.
hmm I was just thinking about how our two windows here with the logo between us is like the recent primary debate where it was just Bernie and Biden, but their podiums were so far apart.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes, we have social distancing even online.
yes, we want to set a good example. But
Right.
let's talk about Survivor. The first thing maybe we could just briefly note about Survivor as we segue is that apparently production on the next season has been delayed due to coronavirus.
Oh, I hadn't seen that yet. I
Yeah,
missed that.
yeah. I mean, it's like many other productions. It's going to be kind of like, well, maybe a couple weeks delay will do it. Hard to say, but they were one of the earlier ones to announce, as far as I saw.
Oh yeah, I mean, there was being in the line of work that I'm in. I actually missed some of the earlier announcements because we were having those debates and decisions ourselves. So I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of tied into all of that from what we were doing, and have since been able to pay more attention.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, hopefully it is only a couple of weeks. I mean, if people would do what they're supposed to do, we would stop having to continue to extend these crazy shutdowns and recommendations. But it's the only way, I guess, to get some people to take it seriously. So
yeah. Well, I thought I saw a poll on over the weekend that was saying it was like NBC Wall Street Journal poll that said 75% of respondents said they hadn't made any changes yet, and this was like on Saturday. And you just can't help but feel like, yeah, I guess more people need the message. But anyway, we're here to talk about Survivor. There's plenty of other places where you can get coronavirus news. Um,
yes,
so let's talk about this episode, even though it aired in the ancient times. Um, Highlights. Any? Obviously, we had the tribe swap.
yeah. I mean, the highlight's got to be for me the fact that they finally got Rob voted out.
Yes. Well,
You
I
know,
mean, yeah, that's a big one.
yeah, and and a sort of sub highlight to that was it was kind of fun watching Rob make them all sit at camp
Yeah.
and not talk to each other, and how they were able to still manage to find a way to agree to all vote him out, even
Well,
while that was going on.
yeah, I mean, it was to the point where, like, obviously he was doing the only thing he could do at that point because the writing was on the wall. But at the same time, it was like people didn't need to be able to talk to each other to exchange eye contact saying, "This sucks, right?"
But
We all know whose
and like,
fault
hey,
this
we're
is.
all yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I thought that was a highlight though to say that it didn't. While it was an amazing effort, it did not end up being successful. So
Yeah. Well, right. Like it was one of those things where we had been saying for a couple of weeks now the room for improvement we wanted to see was people finally willing to pull the trigger. against Rob. You know, he had been weakened for a couple of weeks in a row, and now there was basically nothing he could do about it. You know, like it, you know, he tried to just do his sort of you know, Rob Father mind control on everybody, but it just you know, the mojo ran out, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, he was dealt a tough hand, as we even had a confessional from him about how he hates the tribe swaps because it's like his least favorite part of the game. But you know, it was a difficult hand, and he's playing with so very, very, very good people.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think Adam was re-energized after, you know, being humbled a little bit last time because of the tribe swap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it got him, you know, just it was good for him and bad for Rob. I think, you know, to say what I guess I'm trying to say. You know,
Yeah, no, definitely.
yeah, it allowed him to kind of reset his game, and that allowed him to actually go get Rob this time, you know, or be a part of that, you know. So.
Mm-hmm. We had the only highlight I had from before the swap was um, kind of through an emotional scene with Yule learning, I guess, that Jonathan Penner's wife, was it ALS, I think he said?
Yes.
Um, which, and she's having a real hard time with that, and that's obviously, you know, sad and, you know, hard, I'm sure, for them, but also just seeing Yule, who has gotten to be good friends with Penner, being really broken up about it, and that was just kind of a nice moment, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those. Not that any kind of terminal disease is better or worse than the others, but this one is just, I don't know, something terrifying about it to me. Like it's just so sad, like because it doesn't affect your mind at all. You know, so these people are still as sharp and as able as they are for, you know, for being a normal person in their 40s,
Mm-hmm.
and but their body cannot. So they're realizing like how bad they have it. You know, it's like it's kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I think the other one that also is like Alzheimer's is sort of the opposite, where it's like, you know, your mind all of a sudden doesn't work the right way. Like those are things. Those are just two really scary diseases to me.
Oh yeah, no, I don't. You're certainly not alone.
Yeah. So it's always sad to learn, and you know, and especially I think it's, I mean, it's 100% genetic, right? I mean, it's not. There's nothing you can do about it. Like you
uh,
don't catch it. Like
you might be right. I'm not sure. I don't know.
yeah, I'm
You might
almost
be right.
100% positive that it's a genetic trait that you have no control over whether you get it or don't. You know, so
Hmm. Oh,
but
well, certainly, yeah. Like, there's not any like, oh, well, if only you ate more broccoli. There's nothing like that.
right, and you know, and even with like Alzheimer's, it's nothing perfect, but you know, there are mental exercises that can help delay some of the symptoms and things. Like I don't even know. I think this is just kind of your body just slowly shuts down, and there's just
Hmm.
nothing to do. It's kind of scary, but
Yeah.
so it's sad in general. It's sad that, you know, Jonathan Penner, who we all like, you know, and um, has always been a really fun guy to watch on the show. It's sad that he's going through that. Then, you know,
Yeah.
so
Hmm. And it was a nice kind of, I mean, nice moment from Yule. Just you know, that we haven't seen a whole lot from him, but to just a little bit more personal stuff from him, and that he was kind of confiding in Wendell and Sarah. Although I couldn't help but wonder, like, if that scene, like, not that they wouldn't have wanted to talk about it or wouldn't have wanted to have that conversation, but I wonder if there was a little bit of a, we feel like we want to have a shout out to that on the show, so let's have some people
yeah.
talk about it.
I mean, I think they utilized the idea that Yule. I don't think they pressed him into it. I
Mm.
think Yule genuinely wanted to have that conversation with them because it wasn't it tied to something like Penner's birthday or something, like
Um,
something triggered him to think about it.
yeah, I can't remember now, but you're right. There was it like something led into it.
Right. Like I
As
think
a
like for example, it's just for the sake of argument, let's say it was Jonathan's birthday, and so it made
mhm,
him think of his friend, and he knew his friend was going to have this birthday while he was gone. He knew it was this day, and that
yeah,
made him sad, and so he told these people why he was sad, and the show then used it and was able, not. And again, I don't think they exploited it in any way. I mean, I think
no,
it,
no, no. It was.
it
I think it was just the right way to handle it. I think.
yeah. Um,
Um, yeah.
what I also really like, I mean, now going back to the game part of it,
Hmm.
not that this particular thing advanced Yule, but just in general, I think he's playing a really good game. I'm kind of rooting to see how he navigates all this because what he's done a good job of is building rapport and relationships with these people who he didn't really have before. So he's getting like that layered depth of connection with
Hmm.
people that the people who had previous ones have, but without the baggage of like coming into the show with a set of friends or a set of people that you're predisposed to.
Hmm.
So he's able to maneuver between groups and build real relationships a lot quicker because he's not coming with it. He's not automatically going to certain people that he knows and all of this. And he's very, very, I mean, he's all that part of why he won is he's really, really intelligent. He's
Hmm.
done a great job of kind of sitting back and watching how is this developing, like how is the game changed and how do I want to respond to it, and like not going out and doing his response yet, just taking it in,
Right.
because he knows he can't play the way that he used to, so he's learning the new, how do I navigate this new game, how do I build these strong real relationships. And by the way, I'm pretty strong in challenges, but I'm also not being looked at. No one's looking at Yule and saying, like,
Hmm.
that's a guy we got to worry about.
Yeah, it's a low key game for sure.
Right. But in a way that I think what he's doing with the capital he's built up, like, if his end game is as strong as kind of this, the way that he's doing this opening, I could see him doing really well.
Yeah, I mean the challenge that he'll have, not that that's insurmountable at all, but the the turn that is required when you play the low key game early on, it can be really effective at getting you towards the end, but then at some point you start having to make moves in order to like justify a win.
Right. And what I'm rooting for him is that what he's doing is right now just information gathering, and then he's
Hmm.
going to formulate what his turn is, because that's kind of what happened in his other season. I mean, he wasn't super low key. I mean, he was still a pretty strong player, but it was once he found what his thing was, which was, again, I think it was the time when the Immunity Idol was played differently, so he could just leverage it. He actually changed the way the Immunity Idol was played, if I remember correctly.
Well, I think it was the first season they did those.
Right, and he exploited it to a
Right.
point where they had to change the rules.
Right. They were like, "Oh wait, no, this doesn't work because he used it in a different way than we expected, and it just breaks the game."
Right. He literally broke the game. And so we know he has that in him because he saw that opportunity. And a different player maybe doesn't do that. And
Yeah.
so can he see whatever that opportunity is going to be later in this game and take it? Like, obviously it's not going to be as dramatic as that or as easy as that, but is he maneuverable enough, that he's going to build all this capital with people and he's going to build all this rapport, and then when he's going to kind of see how it all, where's my opening, and if he snatches his opening, then he can do really well, and that's what I'm excited to see.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I like him. He's likable. He's the sort of person that it's nice to see do well.
yes, and he is also. I mean, if you remember back, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he's one of those people that I just remember having a really powerful final tribal, and
Yeah. I don't remember it in detail, but I believe it.
yeah, I don't either. I just know it's one of those things that sticks in my memory of like I remember like really just saying, "Man, you owned it, and you just made it so it wasn't in doubt."
Hmm.
I don't know if his votes were unanimous. I don't think it matters. Like sometimes you don't get unanimous votes even when the actual outcome isn't in doubt.
Yeah.
Because it's just the way you played. But
We can
so
look it up
anyway,
if that was if this was that kind of show.
it's
Anyway.
not that good. Yeah.
So let's talk about the tribe swap now. Even though we're not doing the scene by scene breakdowns anymore, I think it's appropriate to at least just describe the three tribes, how the breakdown happened,
Yep.
right? So on New Sele, we have Michelle, Wendell, Parvati, Yule, and Nick. And then on New Dakal is Sandra, Jeremy, Kim, Denise, and Tony. And both of those have, former Dakal members outnumbering the former Sele members. But then on the new tribe, Yara is Rob, Ben, Adam, Sarah, and Sophie, which is the reverse. The former Sele members outnumber the former Dakal members, although it's unfortunately kind of almost like the worst three that it could be from that perspective. So, because Rob is there with like, well, I didn't really like Adam or Ben very much, or at least as far as being able to trust that I can work with them. So from Rob's perspective, it's kind of like, no, that's not good. I mean, it's one thing for him to talk about not liking the swaps in general, but this is especially not a great swap for him.
No.
Yeah.
No. It was very foreshadowing that he said that they ended up losing, and then he had nothing left to do other than hold them hostage at camp. And
one of my highlights is Rob's face during the challenge, because
yes.
you could just see him seeing that they were losing that puzzle, and just you could see the 1,000-yard stare slowly lengthening on his face of like, this is really bad. No, this is not going well. I'm in trouble now.
Exactly, and that's the thing is like, he's so astute that that's all going through his brain is not just he's knowing that going to tribal council sucks, but he also knows that he has a very, very steep hill to climb if they do,
Yeah.
And so all of those things are coming in there,
Absolutely. And they've done this puzzle before with the four blocks that have to, you can't have the same color, repeat on each side, right? Which
Right.
I don't know, but I sort of just irrationally feel like I don't like that one, because you have to spin it all the way around to see if it's correct or not. And that just feels weird. I mean, it's maybe just irrational and petty of me to just think that that's a problem, but I do, and I don't like it.
Yeah, and there are very few people who can like mentally like actually make that work. Like, it's kind of people who can solve a Rubik's Cube without any instruction, like with really quickly.
Well,
The rest
my
of it,
understanding with
otherwise, it's
Rubik's
kind of like
Cubes,
guess.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. With Rubik's Cubes, I think it's literally just an algorithm. Like, the people who do it really fast, they literally just have a system of moves they do. It's not like solving the puzzle. It's literally like, oh, if you have these two colors next to each other, you do this.
Right. Yeah, I guess. Well, that sort of, I guess, even echoes my point even stronger. Is like, I was thinking of people who can solve a Rubik's Cube via the visual patterning, which is obviously not the fastest way to do it, but it is even less of the population that have that kind of like way of seeing patterns like that far into the future. And that's almost what this puzzle requires. Otherwise, it's just a guess. It's a big guessing game.
Yeah.
And it feels, at least that's what it feels like to me. It feels so lucky. And I don't, that's what I don't like about it. You know?
I feel like, to use an analogy that increasingly people will relate to, you know how when you're attending like a teleconference meeting and someone else is sharing their screen, and you keep wanting to scroll their document for them, but you can't because it's on their computer?
Yeah.
That's what I feel with this puzzle. I feel like I want to be able to see what's on the other side, but I can't, because I can't spin it. They have to. And that just frustrates me. Anyway, it's not a big deal. It's a fine puzzle, but yeah, it's not my favorite for those reasons. But yeah, Rob's face, you could just see him like, working hard, taking the puzzle seriously, but as he was just like as one team finished pretty fast and then he's seeing the other team doing better than their team and just you could see the realization forming on his face. Let's see. We also had Sophie finds another one of the split up idols where you have to give half of it to someone else. And so she decides to share it with Sarah. All right. I mean, I feel like just from a sort of like if we want to put all of these contestants into various lanes, I feel like those two are kind of in the same lane. You know what I mean? Like it maybe makes sense for them to work together. They're going to have similar
Yeah.
strategies moving forward.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we it's hard to even know like who Sophie wants to work with. Like it's
Hmm.
like we hadn't really known who she would even have like a relationship with on this new tribe swap, and so I mean, I
Hmm.
guess it doesn't sort of make sense, I guess. But
Yeah. I mean, and it also obviously makes sense. Like, who else would she share it with in under those circumstances? I mean, theoretically, she could have shared it with one of the former Sele members to try to build trust over there, but I don't know.
yeah,
Not a lot of choices. So I think then we have like the whole, the what was it?
are you going to
Um,
play by play here, or are we?
no, 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 no. I was just going to say that I was trying to describe the what to call the whole everyone being babysat at the shelter
Oh,
with
they were basically being held hostage. I mean, I don't really know what else to call it,
yeah.
But,
Uh,
but mentally, like he wasn't holding them at gunpoint or anything, but he had basically bullied everybody into a hostage scenario.
yeah.
You know,
Well, and honestly, I can't think of anything he could have done that would have been better. Like obviously it didn't work. He kind of had to press so hard that it's like that whole the tighter your grip, the more star systems will slip through your fingers to make it
yeah,
all Star Wars for everybody.
yeah, but it's the way that he plays.
Hmm.
He's not good. Like, and especially in the situation he was in, like he saw that there wasn't going to be any kind of maneuvering. He wasn't going to be able to play them off each other like he'd done a couple of times before, where he got Adam to admit to him something and then went and blew it up and got everybody. It
Hmm.
that all he's already used all those tricks, and so that's kind of the way that I look at this is that because he'd had to play so hard already from the bottom,
Hmm.
he'd used up all of those ideas and he just ran out of them because now they knew how to like it's like the Raptors testing the fences but never test the same one twice. Like he finally got like you can't like they're not going to keep doing the same thing to you and your same things are not going to keep working. Like you
They
have to keep
remember.
changing up. Yeah.
Yeah, so total tangent, but I recently read a tweet thread where someone was watching Jurassic Park for the first time and was very enthusiastic about it in their tweet thread and was just getting way into it. Which I mean, there was definitely a performative quality to it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, hey everybody, come watch me watch Jurassic Park. Like that sort of thing. But at
Right.
the same time, just watching them enjoy the movie was kind of delightful. Anyway,
Yeah.
this is not a Jurassic Park podcast, or it is, but only sporadically. So, what a, I yeah, I think we're on the same page there. That like it's Rob kind of did what the only thing he thought might work, but ultimately, he they had softened him up a fair amount by voting out all his allies, and then he just ended up on a tribe swap where it was like it's almost worst case scenario for him. So yeah, it was not likely to happen. Although, kudos to the editors for making it look like, in theory, it might still sort of be something else, but
Yeah.
hard, hard really to understand why anyone else there would actually think that's the right way to play it. You know. Anyway,
Sorry, I
so
got distracted. So we have some flowers on our rooftop deck that
okay.
while we're out of town, our neighbor has been coming because the rooftop decks are connected because we're kind of condo style.
Mm-hmm.
So our neighbor has been coming over and watering them while we've been out of town. And I think she didn't realize that I got back yesterday, even though because my wife doesn't get back till tonight. So I was like, what the hell is that? Like I heard someone walking on my roof. My dog just flipped out and ran up there, and I was like, should I go? And then I heard like the faucet turn on to like fill the watering can. And it's like,
Yeah.
she just, but it was kind of like a, what is that?
Yeah. So, favorite moment?
I've decided after like the last couple times that I need to actually narrow it down to like a favorite moment. So instead of like, here are the things I liked. My favorite moment was, I mean, I think it's hard. It's got to be the fact that it's just Rob's whole exit, like the whole piece of like, yes, they finally did it. You know, I like Rob. I want him around, but this was the right thing to do. He knew that, you know, the fact that he gave his fire tokens to Parvati and kind of had a little, you know, smart ass thing. I don't remember exactly what he said. I just remember it was like kind of
It was like go get him or something like that.
But it was like, it wasn't exactly that. Like,
yeah, I mean, that was the sort of the gist of it, but I don't remember.
He said it in like a weird way that was like kind of just very much him, you know. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was. I remember that moment, and just, so yeah, that whole. All right, they did the right thing, and then the anticipation of like, okay, what's he gonna be like over on the other, you know, and so that whole moment combined with what actually happened, how it like then how he then left, and then what our anticipation is for next time. That was, I think, my favorite moment, like rolled up in the episode.
Yeah, what I think will be interesting is Rob and Amber in a or you know, like a differently competitive setup, right? Where like they're not separated by tribes anymore, and while they're still both doing something, they could very much be a team over there.
Right, they could work together in a similar way to the season that Amber won, in which they are a unit, and then ultimately, like only one of them can move on. But if they play everything correctly, then one of them moving on is good for the both of them. You know, so.
Yeah.
But Natalie's going to be tough to beat over there.
Yeah, she's working hard. Yeah. So it occurs to me that it's not my favorite moment, but one of the things we didn't mention so far in highlights was just Wendell and Michelle having sort of an awkward.
Oh yeah, they like used to date. Now she's
over there. Yeah, well, and it's one of those things where it's so obvious that there is sort of a power dynamic still. You know what I mean? In terms of like, it seems like maybe he was.
You get him, bud. You get him. You get those people off our roof.
But you know, she is very much like he really hurt me, and it's super awkward to see him here. And then Wendell's all like, "What? No, it's fine. What are you talking about?"
Yes.
So anyway, I think my favorite moment was the thing that just stuck out to me the most was just seeing Rob realize during the challenge what was going to happen. You know, and he did everything he could to try to avoid it, but he saw the future in that moment, and it just really leapt out at me. As for biggest surprise, I feel like this episode didn't really have a lot of surprises in it. Which is not a failing necessarily, it's just different.
I guess the biggest surprise is that they were actually able to get it done. I mean, it's all tied.
Yeah.
all this stuff I think is tied to Rob going out. Like it was,
Hmm.
they weren't able to do it for so long. Like even though it was seemed obvious to all of us, and again, it's not a huge surprise to your point. Like the episode didn't have any huge surprises, but it was. I mean, it was a little surprising that they actually got it to work. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
As for MVP, like, feels weird to give MVP to the person who actually got voted out, but it's there's not any one single person otherwise that I can think of.
sniffing me.
I mean,
No,
Sophie found an idol. That was pretty good.
yeah. Sophie found an idol, but the problem with making like her MVP is that she's still like that whole thing where they like got all ready to like use all their well, I guess that wasn't her. No, because she gave it away to Sarah, and Sarah gave it back to her. That was the part I
Right.
was going
Well,
to say.
because it was the one that has to be split in half, right? So, yeah.
Right.
But they were prepared, like to use. They had the idol, and then Sarah had to steal a vote, and they were thinking they might have to use it, but it became obvious to them that Ben and Adam were with them. That Rob needed to go, so they didn't have to do anything with that stuff. Which, in
Yeah.
hindsight, is maybe a reason that, like, if they had known about those things, would Adam and Ben have made a different decision because now they're in a two versus two setup
Where
with a
they
pair
have
that
all the
has an idol
advantages.
and
Yeah.
a steal a vote?
It's fair. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess in that sense, then maybe Sophie does qualify for an MVP.
Yeah. I mean, not that I think she necessarily like made all that happen, but hey, finding an idol is that's an accomplishment, no
Well,
matter what.
and it was almost the reverse of why, for whatever reason, why I had it backwards in my head. Not only did she find it, but she also has both pieces now.
Yeah, she had to give one to Sarah, but she gave it to someone who was willing to give it back.
Right. And like I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Like once you give it to the other person, if they give it back to you, you don't have to like give it back to them. Like
Right.
I don't think it can only be united at tribal. I think once it's back together, it's yours, you know?
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think yeah, I mean she's in a good spot and
Hmm.
she's also playing a low key game. I mean it's not again, I don't I think she's gonna have a tougher time with the turn as we discussed earlier than Yule will.
Her game is
But
kind of chaotic right now.
yeah, I think she's set up in a position to actually make it a decent amount. I mean, I know they tried to like target her because she was chaotic, but I think that's going to settle in. Like, and again, having an idol is going to save her in case that she does become the target next time. But
Hmm.
once they get into like a merge, she's just kind of probably going to disappear again. And
Hmm.
but again, it's only like she's playing for like
I mean,
third
that
or
is
fourth
technically
place.
kind of how she won the last time. Because, I
I
mean, one of
know.
the reasons she was a
This
little
isn't
bit
going to happen like
controversial
that.
is she kind of, yeah. Anyway, the, but, yeah, so, um, I mean, the only other, like, consideration for MVP would just be, like, but it's kind of Adam and Ben together deciding to finally take out Rob, right? Like, you can't really give credit to either of them individually.
No, they've definitely like gave each other confidence to do it. So
Yeah. So, what went wrong for Rob? We kind of talked through that already. It was just like, they they over a couple of weeks made him use all of his tricks, and then he just
yeah,
painted him into a corner. There wasn't anything else really he could have done.
yeah, it's like the sad ending to a zombie movie. You know, they just kept coming for him, and eventually, like he couldn't fight them off.
Yeah,
You know.
he saved one bullet for himself. No, actually, though, that's not Rob's style. I feel like Rob's the guy in the zombie movie who, when it's obvious that it's doomed, is just like, nah, I'll just let him take me.
I mean, that's kind of what he ended up doing. Like he had run out of bullets, he had run out of things, and so he had this one last move that I'm gonna try. You know, it was almost like the it was probably more like the end of I Am Legend, where he decides to like let them all in and then blow himself up or whatever. You know,
Yeah, yeah. You know what that also makes me think of is just the zombie movie comparison is how eerily familiar some of the things about the coronavirus are evoking zombie element things. You know, of just like, you know, if someone is coming to work sick, you know, it's kind of like the person who is bit by a zombie and doesn't tell anybody. Anyway, so our last segment here, room for improvement. Do you have anyone you want to particularly offer advice to?
Um, no, I think this one just I think everybody did what they needed to do in this one, and it's
Hmm.
just this is how it came out.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I think Sarah has some just general room for improvement.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, kind of she needs to be a little less chaotic and a little less like impulsive towards some of those. She seems like she gets more excitable than I think she needs to, and she makes
She's kind of
decisions
just an
like
intense person in general.
yeah, and I know that's worked for her, but it's also kind of put her in some awkward positions in this one where this was the latest example, like just deciding to give the thing back with no, as far as we know, no agreement that if we decide not to use this, we split it back up again, which I think would have been the more rational. Like, I know she couldn't make her do that, but she could have requested it.
Well, I think it was on the basis, though, of saying, "Hey, Sophie, you and me are kind of stuck together here, but let's try to cement this, you know, alliance between us. You know, between the two of us, we have two advantages. Let's make sure we can make the most of them. Neither of
Yeah,
us can use half an idol, and because I have the steal a vote, we might as well you have the idol."
yeah,
Which, you
that's fair.
know, I mean, I think that might be what it is. Honestly, I was going to give my advice to Ben and Adam just because, as we kind of just talked about, they're potentially in a tough spot right now just because the four of them don't really seem like they're the strongest of the, you know, potential challenge winning.
Yeah.
So if they're going to lose a couple more challenges, I think that's Adam and Ben gone.
Yeah, no, you're right. That is the and that's maybe if Rob was more of a traditional player, maybe that's what he would have played off of,
Hmm.
is gone to them and said, guys, without me, if this tribe stays together, you're going to lose, and those girls are going to take you both out. And again, maybe they still think, oh, we'll take those girls out, but
Hmm.
that was, I guess, maybe Rob's other play.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you know,
is
I honestly I think he probably did say that, but it's
well, yeah,
just
no, you're right. That was probably part of what he when he got them to agree to get rid of one of the girls, which was what they all agreed to before he locked them down.
yeah. Like
Yeah,
his whole
that
big
probably was
thing
part of that.
was
Yeah,
Survivor's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. We have three and they have two. Why would we give that up? That was his kind of whole.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and that may prove to be true. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
so,
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. So, um, assuming that Survivor airs this week, I don't think we have any reason to suspect it won't. We will watch that episode and then be back to talk about Survivor some more. So um, it feels more weighty than usual, but try to survive until then.
yeah, yeah. Please, yeah.
Yeah. Wash your hands.
Just wash your hands all week,
Hmm.
please.
Yeah. All right.